Joining me now is Bob Livingston, former Republican congressman from Louisiana, founder of the Livingston Group. He endorsed Donald Trump during the primaries. He joins us from Metairie, Louisiana. We're less than 100 days away, Bob, from the election. What's your read on this campaign right now?
Well, it's a toss-up. I just noted that Trump was actually ahead in all but about 1 day in the average polls in July. So it's a new ball game. Both candidates are not the most popular that have ever been nominated by their respective parties. But when I look at the big issues, the economy, national security, immigration, and certainly the Supreme Court, I just come down very strongly on behalf of Donald Trump and very much against Hillary Clinton.
You endorsed Trump, and at the time you voted, when you voted, you didn't vote for him, and Ted Cruz and John Kasich were still in the primary. Who did you vote for in the primary?
I voted for Marco Rubio, and he dropped out about 3 days later.
Have you had any second thoughts on the endorsement? Because Trump keeps saying things every day that causes some sort of flurry. Have you hedged a little?
No, I'm not. I haven't hedged my position. I'm going to vote for him, and I'm going to vote for him enthusiastically, both for him and against his opponent. And I don't think that the third parties are worth a darn, so I'm not even considering them. But I do wish that Trump would get some of his comments under control, because I don't think that he's been terribly on steady, let's say that, steady on a lot of his comments. He gets distracted. If he would just talk about the key issues in this campaign, then, frankly, he wins hands down.
The biggest reaction lately now is about his comments about the speech made by Khazar Khan, the father of the American Muslim Army captain killed in Iraq. Trump complained he was viciously attacked by Khan. He questioned why the mother wasn't able to speak. He equated the same sacrifices he did hiring jobs to the death of a son. I don't know how hiring jobs is a sacrifice. What do you make of that whole thing?
Larry, it was an unfortunate issue to debate. There was no good side for Donald to talk about on this thing. It's a tragedy that the young man was killed in doing service for this country. He should have simply acknowledged that and moved on. The fact that he didn't means that he needs some polish as a candidate. But that doesn't mean he's wrong on the issues. He can go on and talk about the need for a strong national defense, but he doesn't need to get into all these wars and these activities. Fact is, Hillary Clinton voted for the war in Iraq where this kid was killed. He could have talked about that. He could have talked about the need to strengthen our military that's been in decline for the last several years. Even though Obama, who has not gotten us out of these wars, but continues to mess up the Middle East, he should have talked about that. But getting in personal ad hominems about the family members of people who were killed in the war doesn't do anybody any good, and I hope we move on from it.
Does it give you some concern, though, that Donald is kind of a lone wolf?
He is a very unusual candidate. There is no doubt about that. But it's done him well, and I think that there's so many people that are convinced that he is speaking to the average guy. He's speaking to people that haven't voted Republican in perhaps their whole lives. He's talking to the blue-collar guy who wants a job, who's distressed that all our jobs have gone overseas. He's talking to people who are concerned about the immigrants who are coming in and out of the country from abroad without any vetting, any checking. And some of them pose a real hazard to people's lives and families and so forth. He's talking about, he should be talking about stacking the Supreme Court with conservatives and not the type of people that Hillary Clinton will be setting up on the court. So there's so many issues that he can talk about. He doesn't need to get embroiled in some of these other issues.
At the time of your endorsement, Bob, you said that Donald Trump has an unusual appeal, the likes of which we haven't seen since Reagan. But Reagan was known for his optimism, and Trump seems to be known for a darker side. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Not entirely, Larry. I've heard that theme, and I think that that's basically what Hillary Clinton would like to portray. In order to shift attention away from the fact that she's untrusted by 60% of the American people. She's got one scandal after another to account for. She's got emails that transmitted national secrets to foreign powers. She's got this whole Clinton Foundation that hasn't even been touched yet, and I think that we're going to hear so much more about in the months ahead. So he needs to just shift to his opponent and not declare little mini battles with people that, frankly, shouldn't even be discussed on television.
Are your feelings as much anti-Clinton as pro-Trump?
Pretty much.
I appreciate the honesty of that. Donald Trump recently said he's starting to agree with those who are chanting, "Lock her up." Isn't that a little overboard?
No, that's over the board. Yeah, that's strong. In fact, he deliberately, when he was given that speech last week or so, tamped that down when they started chanting it in front of him. So I don't think he's adopted that. That's not the kind of thing we need. We need to talk about issues. We need to talk about her position on the Supreme Court and all the liberals that she's going to stack the court with. We need to talk about unlimited immigration. She wants to bring in 3 or 4 or 5 times as many people into this country from Syria that haven't been vetted than Obama has. There are just so many things that where Hillary Clinton has proven herself wrong over the years. She's known to the American people. She's been around for 30 years. And if he'll concentrate on that, I think he can and I think he will win this election.
You are not anti-immigration, are you, Bob?
No, actually, I'm not. I've always favored legal immigration. In fact, I think, the whole country was founded on immigration.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Native Americans, we're all immigrants going back sooner or later. No, I'm for it. I just don't think we ought to be opening the doors and letting anybody walk in, regardless of their background and without being checked. I mean, we want good, solid people to be great Americans. And the man last week who talked about the loss of his son is a great American. God bless him. We need to have more good people who want to become Americans, but we don't need them unvetted like Obama's doing right now, and Hillary would even multiply.
In 2008, 10 years after you left Congress, you told the Times-Picayune that you don't wish the Clintons any ill will. Do you still feel that way?
I do. Actually, I like Bill Clinton, and I've only met Hillary Clinton once or twice maybe. I still like Bill Clinton. He's impossible to dislike.
Correct.
But, you know, he was convicted in a court of law, or at least on an ethics board for lying under oath, and he lost his bar license. She's had one scandal after another, and I don't like their background. I don't believe that they're very trustworthy. I join with 60% of the American people in saying that she's not trustworthy enough to be president of the United States.
Are you concerned that Vladimir Putin might be in the middle of our election?
I'd be shocked. I mean, Putin is the head of Russia. He's become increasingly authoritarian, if not a dictator. And I think that their interests in Russia are not our interests. But I do think that he's probably trying to tap our email systems, as are the Chinese and are, frankly, any other adversary. And I don't think Hillary Clinton was very responsible in her handling. When she was Secretary of State and handling the nation's top secrets, she didn't seem to give a darn. And that bothers me. That makes another reason why I don't think she'd be a good president.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a plus to have Bill back in the White House, though?
Well,
that's some sort of plus.
When he had a lot to do, he got himself in a little trouble. Now he won't have anything to do except what he wants to do. I'm not so sure that that's a plus. Look, the guy's a great, gregarious guy, and I wish him well. But when you look at a picture of Bill Clinton as being the next First Lady versus the next First Lady if Donald Trump gets elected, I'll take Trump.
Okay, Donald Trump has heaped scorn on lobbyists. He said, we don't need them. You are a successful lobbyist. Do you take that personally?
I've heard the last few presidents say they're against lobbyists. I noticed Obama said he wasn't going to have anything to do with lobbyists except for the ones that he invited into the White House, and they were his lobbyists. Hillary Clinton is well known not only with lobbyists, but with the bankers in Wall Street, and yet she says she's going to reel in the lobbyists and Wall Street. I take all that with a grain of salt, and I'm not getting too worried about it. Being a lobbyist is much like being a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer too. You represent your clients and you do the best job you can for them. If you can't do a good job for them, they're not going to hire you. And so
the good lobbyist provides information, does he not?
He provides information. He works to get a job done. Yeah. I mean, you hire a lobbyist. You hire a lawyer to go to court and get your objectives recognized. And a lobbyist, you go through the political process. If I don't know anything about the political process, I'm not going to have any clients.
One area, though, you advocate on behalf of trade deals, including NAFTA. Trump is opposed to this. Is that an area you disagree with Trump?
I am not very crazy about his trade policies, although I think you can make a case that a lot of Americans have lost their jobs in favor of businesses abroad. One of the biggest things that worries me is the inversions, the companies that flee the United States to go to other countries and to set up shop and hire people that aren't Americans. That does bother me. You know how we can stop that immediately? Lower the corporate tax rate so they don't flee and so that they have an incentive to stay right here in the country. We need a change in tax policy, and I don't think that Hillary Clinton, who is just going to be an extension of Barack Obama's tax policy, is going to be an improvement at all. I think Trump would be a tremendous improvement.
One other thing, Bob, the differences between the two conventions. The Republican convention say, make America great again. The Democratic convention was staunchly, America's already great. Where do you stand? I
think we need a lot of improvement. Our economy's down. We have more people unemployed, not the traditional employment factor, which is around 5%, but the people who have given up looking for work. We got to put those people back to work. We got something like 90 million people in this country that are out of work, and that's inexcusable. So America does have to get great again. We have to be smarter in our international policy. The Chinese are taking advantage of us. The Russians, even the North Koreans pose a great threat, and yet we don't hear anything from the Democrats about that. They don't seem to care about the plight of the average worker unless they can use the average worker. Go to Detroit. Right now, go to Detroit or any other inner city, major city. The Democrats have been running those cities for generations, and look where they are. The average poor black kid, minority kid, can't get a job because of Democratic policies. It's not the Republicans' fault. It's their fault, and they need to be accountable. And I'm just hoping that Donald Trump will stand up and scream about putting the poor, unemployed people in the inner city, and particularly the youngsters, to train them back to work. Get them back to work.
Bob, great talking with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Larry. It's great to be with you.